Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most pivotal moments in the story of Eden. We're not talking about the bite of the fruit itself, but the raw, immediate aftermath, those first few moments of realization, fear, and yeah, the first ever excuses.
We're going to explore the profound psychological shifts, the changes in the relationships that happened right after that one fateful choice. It's really a story about a new kind of awareness, a tense confrontation, and that deeply human instinct to point the finger.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the internal change that happened in Adam and Eve. Then we'll track the Lord's return to the garden. After that, we'll dissect the intense interrogation, unpack that whole chain of blame, and finally witness the very first judgment being handed down.
Okay, so what was the very first thing that happened? It's interesting, it wasn't some lightning bolt from the sky. The first consequence was all internal, a sudden, pretty jarring new sense of self.
It's like suddenly their eyes were opened and the very first thing they felt was shame. And what's really fascinating here is that God actually waited. He gave this new awareness time to sink in, letting these new physical and emotional feelings really take hold before he made his presence known.
Now, the way the Lord's return is described, it's fascinating. It completely turns what you might expect from an angry God on its head. Instead of some sudden, terrifying appearance, we get this deliberate, almost calm approach. He speaks out loud while he's still hidden from view, basically giving them a heads up that he's on his way. This was a choice, and it seems like it was designed to give them a moment to prepare for the conversation they knew was coming.
But that little warning, it didn't bring any comfort. Not at all. Instead, it sparked what the text calls a guilty terror. Their new conscience, just weighed down by what they'd done, drove them away from their Creator to go hide among the trees of the garden.
So let's get into the interrogation itself. And this wasn't really about finding out the facts. This was about drawing a confession straight from Adam and Eve.
The Lord calls out, "Where goest thou?" And Adam's response is described as having a childlike honesty. He doesn't deny hiding. He just immediately admits his fear and why he was afraid, his nakedness, before he's even asked about it.
Then the Lord asks two really direct questions. And the key here is that he already knows the answers. The whole point of these questions isn't for his information, it's to give Adam the opportunity to confess, to take responsibility for what he did.
And this next moment, this is where everything changes. Adam's answer is what the source material describes as clear proof that, and I quote, "the fall had taken full effect."
I mean, think about it. He was asked a simple yes or no question, but instead of saying yes, he deflects, he creates an alibi. And notice the layers here. He blames Eve, the woman she gave me, but he also subtly implicates the one who gave him the woman, saying, "the woman thou gavest me."
And this just perfectly illustrates a new powerful force that's now at play, a newly acquired instinct of self-preservation. This compulsion to avoid responsibility is now overpowering that simple, basic impulse to just tell the truth.
So after hearing Adam's side, the Lord immediately turns his attention to Eve. The question is direct, it's simple, just asking her to account for what she did. So what does she do? The exact same thing Adam did. She feels this surging instinctive passion to escape the guilt. All those arguments that seemed so logical before now feel like a massive blunder, and she just passes the blame one step further down the line.
So, with the chain of blame complete, ending right at the serpent, the time for questions is over. The Lord turns to the one who started it all, and there's no interrogation, there's only judgment.
You see, the serpent was more than just an animal. It was one of the subtle intellects of its kingdom that had fallen under Lucifer's influence. And for its part in all this, the verdict is swift and it is transformative.
The curse has three parts. First, it's cursed above all other animals. Second, it's condemned to move on its belly. And third, it will eat dust for the rest of its days.
And this is a really fascinating little detail. The specific wording of the curse, "upon thy belly shalt thou go," is seen as evidence of a literal physical transformation. It implies that before this whole thing, this creature had a completely different way of moving around. The connection that was forged there in the garden was so strong that the very identity of the serpent became completely intertwined with the deceiver. From this moment on, Lucifer himself would also carry that title of serpent. So this judgment is absolute and final for the serpent, but it's only the first verdict delivered in the cool of that day.
And that leaves us with a lingering, pretty critical question. What consequences are now waiting for the man and the woman, who are still standing there, waiting for their own judgment?